What's good, everyone? And as you guys can tell from the thumbnail and title, we're going to be talking about the top 5 weapons you can use as a striker. Now, I do actually have some honorable mentions, but I'm going to save those for the very end of the video, so I actually have time to explain why they aren't on the list without stopping. And one final disclaimer before we do start: when I say best striker weapons, I'm not referring to an autos 2v2 or 3v3 striker. I'm talking about actual competitive strikers with actual teams surrounded around them. So yeah, but I mean, if you really want to, you can consider this list like an autos list, because these weapons pretty much work the exact same if you have like a teammate or someone playing with you, someone with a brain. But yeah, anyways, with that being said, let's go ahead and start the list. At our number 5 spot, we have Formless. Now, there may be some controversy on Formless needing to be higher on the list or not on the list at all, but before y'all say anything, just let me, talk about it first. First off, the Formless bicycle kick is absolutely lethal, especially if you train with it a lot and you're able to consistently insta Formless. It's pretty much Emperor, but 10 times more dangerous, and if you combine that with an actual Emperor user on your team, you are not losing any games. Like, a decent Formless user is literally essential for a top tier team, so yeah. And on top of the bicycle kick, Formless also has a passive called Dragon Drive, which amps up your shot power and covers the ball in a very, very blinding visual effect. And the crazy part about Dragon Drive, which I hear nobody talk about, is the fact that it actually consistently goes in. Not because it's like super fast or anything, it's just really slow or decently fast, and it really just throws off the keeper. So it's actually a very efficient passive. Now, it was short, but we're about done with the positives for Formless, so let's talk about what actually sets this weapon back. The first key negative that comes to mind when I think about this weapon is the positioning and setup necessary to get the insta Formless off. If you guys have ever seen anybody do an insta Formless like close range, you can always tell it's from an angle, because it's actually a bit harder to aim and get past the keeper when you're dead set in the middle. And the bad thing is, as a striker, the center is mainly where you're going to be positioned, unless you're obviously supporting your winger on the attack. But yeah, because of this, if you're actually positioned as a striker on the team, if you're trying to set up for an insta Formless, it's actually very, very obvious. And even though I'm not a defender, I can see it all the way up from the top position. Like, whenever a striker Formless user is setting up for their Formless, it's just a very easy block on the defense's part, because even though Formless is extremely fast, it's still blockable. So yeah, now for our next key negative we have is the height. Now, realistically, if you wanted to, you could use Formless on any height, but if you're playing competitively, you're pretty much restricted to 5'8" and oftentimes 5'3". Reason I say this is because anything over this height, it would just be way too much power and height, to the point where when you try insta Formlessing with a tall height, it'll just go straight over the goal. And if you try and go long distance with it, it's going to 100% get blocked. So yeah, I mean, that's about it for number 5. I mean, it's just ranked so low due to the restrictions and conditions in order to actually get the insta Formless off. And you may argue that you can do it from far or something like that. I mean, that's cool, but if you try pulling an insta Formless from far, it's just not going in. And if you try anything other than an insta Formless in competitive, it's also most likely not going to go in. So yeah, at the end of the day, this weapon is just much better for a winger instead of a striker. But it obviously made this list, so if you really want to, you can utilize it as a striker. You just got to be very, very quick. Alright, so next up we have the number 4 weapon, and it's going to have to go to Nagi. Now, I can't lie, this weapon almost didn't make the list, but just taking a second look at all the positives, I just had to put this weapon back on. Even though Nagi is a very simple one-dimensional weapon, it's actually one of the most efficient weapons on the pitch. Your one use with this weapon is just getting into the box and using the weapon once, and after that's done, you have 2 choices: you either shoot or pass it. And honestly, this, a perfect 50-50, is the best thing you could ask for as a striker, because unless the Serpent is off cooldown, you literally have a guaranteed chance at a goal. And another huge positive at this weapon is whenever you use it in the box, majority of the defenders literally have to redirect their attention to you. And because of this, all wingers will be naturally freed from all the pressure they had before. Now, the reason they actually have to redirect their attention to you is because if you have less than 2 people on you, you are making that shot. You are getting the shot off with the Nagi. So defenders literally have to do that. Because the thing about a Nagi shot, it's not amped up or anything, but you get a full charge and you're just so high up in the air, so close to the goalkeeper, to the point where they can't even block it, unless obviously their snatch activates. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and get on to the negatives. So for our first and only negative is Serpent. Now, Nagi, it has this is the biggest problem any weapon has, and it's the fact that Serpent can easily counter it. I mean, Serpent was pretty much built to counter this weapon. So if you're going against a lineup where there is a Serpent user, which 9 times out of 10 there is going to be a Serpent user, you're pretty much cooked. Unless your offense can, be on the attack at all times, putting the pressure on the other team consistently to the point where the Serpent doesn't have their cooldown by the time y'all are on attack. But if it's like an equal 50-50 to, where each team gets like 150 seconds on offense and whatnot, like you are going to get shut down each and every single time. Like your only job on the pitch after that is to literally just get the Serpent's attention and maybe let your other teammates beam top. I mean, that's about it. Like you're pretty much just a tool in the field at that point. So yeah, other than the huge skill and mastery diff with Formless, this is definitely the biggest weapon setback we're going to see on this list. But yeah, now we're about done with 4, so let's get on to our top 3 best weapons for a striker. You know what I'm saying? Now we are at that point where the weapons pretty much have close to no negatives. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. At number 3, we have the one and only direct shot. This weapon is absolutely amazing, and unlike 4 and 5, you don't even need to be good at the game to utilize this weapon. All you need to be good with direct shot is decent positioning, aim, and teammates who have a brain. Now the first huge thing this weapon has going for it is its power. Direct shot is quite literally an emperor with no cooldown, so if you get decent positioning, the shot is quite literally unblockable. And as a striker, if you know how to pass and maneuver around defenders, you have all the room to do so. So honestly, there's really no excuse for missing this shot unless obviously the goalkeeper activates snatch. Next up, we have build flexibility. Now with direct shot, you can literally use any build you like and it will pretty much function the exact same. Now yes, there are some traits that could kind of accommodate the weapon a bit better, like you can be using quick draw or something like that so you can get your shots off fast, or you can maybe be using 5-3 so you can maneuver around defenders a bit faster, or 6 foot so you can get a slightly powerful shot. But at the end of the day, direct shot is direct shot, and it's going to be an extremely powerful shot at the end of the day. Now there's maybe one minor negative I can say about this weapon, and it's the fact that you need decent teammates that listen. Even though direct shot is a absolutely crazy weapon, it's still something you need to depend on your teammates for. So if you want to be something greater than just a tool on the field that people rely on whenever they can't score goals, you should probably learn how to dribble and finish in other ways than your weapon. Now at number 2 on the list, we have my personal favorite, King. And call me crazy for ranking it so high on the list, but I absolutely have no regrets. And I'm not gonna lie, even without the King shot, this weapon would still be this high. And the crazy thing about this weapon is barely anybody uses it. Like, I'm not trying to be that guy, but people only start using this weapon, and it's still pretty rare to see people use it, but people only start using this weapon after I started using it. I kid you guys not. Like, once again, I'm not trying to be that guy, but like, I was using King like after, or not after, but before they added in the shot, and this thing was still an amazing weapon. And yeah, people are just now using it in comp. But yeah, enough of the self-glaze. Let's talk about why it's actually this high on the list. So first off, as a striker, this is honestly the best weapon you could ask for, especially if you're someone who likes to, go a bit solo with your game. Like, if you have a decent understanding on where your King chops will end up after they're finished, there's absolutely nothing holding you back in getting in a 1v1 with the goalkeeper. Unless teams specifically position back so you can't do that, but I mean, in 11 on 11 that won't happen. AV8s, yeah, they can for sure do that. But if they do that, that honestly just means you're using your weapon right, and that just gives you and your teammates room to get from box to box without having to, dribble past anybody. So if you're using King, and when you get the ball in attack and the defenders on the opposite team are full sprinting back to save their keeper, just know you're using it right. Now on top of the chops, King has a shot. And even though it isn't the most powerful shot in the game, it's still absolutely lethal. And especially if you use it correctly, it's literally a free goal. Like, just a bit on the shot, like, it's kind of comparable to ambidextrous, maybe not as strong, but there is something you can do to make the shot teleport for, like, a single frame. But I'm not going to be talking about that in today's video. Maybe another video if you guys want to learn how to actually use King efficiently. Because when I rarely see it being used in scrims, like, people don't use it correctly. Like, I'll see people using King on the wing. But yeah, I mean, I kept this short, like the positives at least. But yeah, this weapon's honestly amazing. And the only thing really holding it back is people just not using it correctly. And those types of people just give the weapon a bad look. Like, before King got a shot, like, it got a bad reputation because people who use King just could not finish. And now I see tons of more examples, like When people shoot the king shot, it's extremely predictable, and people also use it at close range, which is not good at all. And I also see people using king when, you know, defenders are literally in the spot where the chops are going to land. But yeah, honestly, the biggest skill issue I see with king users is not being able to finish in 1v1s. And honestly, if you cannot finish in a 1v1 with the goalkeeper as a striker, you should honestly hang up your coat because you're absolutely trash. So yeah, if you can't finish in a 1v1 with the keeper as a striker, you might have to pull a Toshi and, you know, go back to midfielder or something. Like, hit the lab at least. But yeah, the final true negative I have for this weapon is if you go against top defenders, you literally have to choose your weapon use like right. Like, you cannot mess up once because they will indeed slide on the third chop, because for some reason you could steal instantly from the third chop, which I personally thought was fixed in like one of the you know, mini patches. But I mean, it's not, because, you know, if you go against a good player, they will indeed slide on your king. And they could also block it fairly easily if they can, you know, kind of predict where your chops are going to land. So honestly, me personally, like, I like heavy feint my kings. Like, I hold the ball for extremely long and just don't shoot at all, and, you know, get the keeper and the defenders jumping. So I mean, that doesn't happen. But yeah, on to our final weapon. Number one, as you guys probably guessed it, we have the one and only Emperor. Now with Emperor, there's only really 3 stages. There's the first stage, which is the absolutely garbage stage, where you can't even hit your Emperors and you get them blocked whenever you shoot them. And if you're on the stage, honestly, hang up your coat, quit the game. And then there's your second stage, the decent / good stage. And all you need to do to reach the stage is be able to run and aim. Like, you can be looked at as a good player if you know how to run and aim with Emperor. And then finally, you can real quick jump the world class stage if you know how to dribble a bit and use Emperor. Like, that's literally it. You do not have to be good at the game to use Emperor. Like, if you got this far and you're a competitive player who knows how to dribble good, use Emperor and you will be a top 5 striker / forward in the game. Like, the only real negative Emperor has is like the fact that it's really hard to, you know, kind of main and on competitive, only because pretty much every single team already has an Emperor user, so you're most likely not getting that spot unless you're just cold like that. But yeah, I honestly don't have too much I want to say about this weapon. It's very, very simple. It's just a very powerful shot. So pretty much everything I said about direct shot applies to this, minus the negatives. So if you're using this weapon in an AV8 scrim and you're not scoring at least 3 goals, then hang up the coat, retire. Nah, I'm playing, y'all, but nah, I'm not playing. Anyways, let's go ahead and get on to the honorable mention. So for our first honorable mention, we have the one and only Chigri. And honestly, like, I really wanted to put this over Formless, but Chigri, like, you just have to be good at the game to use this. I mean, honestly, the same is for Formless, but Chigri is a bit more of a skill gap because, like, you don't really have a shot. Like, you need to be good at dribbling and you need to be able to finish in a one-on-one with the keeper, which a lot of people struggle with. But yeah, like, you can literally rock any build with Chigri, like 5-3, Chigri, and Egoist. Like, I've seen people rock this build and it's actually so annoying. Like, all you need to do is hold the sprint button. Like, I know I said you have to be like kind of good at dribbling, but like, really, if you're rocking like 5-3 Chigri Egoist, like, you just need to hold down that sprint button and like, you need to finish against the keeper. And honestly, you could just walk in. Like, using Chigri just puts so much pressure on the goalkeeper because you pretty much have to react to like a finish, like a regular finish, but it's like 3 times faster. So yeah, if you're really, really good at dribbling, I'd 100% recommend using Chigri. It's just very overpowered. It's pretty much like King, except like it doesn't really have all the bonuses because you actually kind of have to, like, you know, play yourself instead of just like getting moved by the King chops. Like, you have to dribble through people naturally. But yeah, the real only like negative with Chigri is the fact that you have to be good at the game, obviously, which really isn't a negative. That's just a skill issue. And it's also the fact that it's kind of hard to control your dribbles when you're like 10 times faster than everybody else. Like, when I actually do rarely see Chigri users, they mess up quite a bit. So yeah, that sets them back quite a lot. And yeah, finally, for our final honorable mention, we have Copycat. Now, Copycat, if you're like one of those people who's a great all-rounder and is just really good at the game, Copycat is the perfect weapon. And honestly, the only thing that really sets it back is that you have to rely on the other team to have a decent weapon for you to copy. Like, you don't want to be a striker and like end up with Sword Screw or something like that. I mean, Sword Screw is a good weapon, very amazing, but just not really suited for a striker. But yeah, just imagine if you got like a Nagi user right there, Riptide user, direct shot, like you're T, like you're set up. You can be the most unpredictable player on the field. But the reason it didn't actually make this list is the fact that honestly, there's just much better options, much better, safer options. Like you don't really want to take that chance of not even getting a weapon at all. But yeah, that's about it for the top 5 striker ranked weapons. Let me know if you guys want like a midfielder edition or like maybe even an autos edition, because like I said, this was not really surrounded around like autos gameplay. So yeah, y'all just let me know. Hope you enjoyed, and yeah, peace.